Montreal is apparently open for business when it comes to trading one of their goalies. We'll be talking about which one of them is maybe the most likely and what kind of trade return they might get, plus another Lane Hutson statistic. You might be sick of him at this point, but this stat is really insane. One of the top point producers over the last 20 years. And finally, we got a bit of a Sean Monahan note saying he's 100% healthy, so you'll want to stick around for this edition of Habs Digest. And before we get into the first topic of whether it's worth trading one of their goalies right now, a quick reminder to hit subscribe. When I remind you guys, you subscribe, so I'm going to remind you this time. There are thousands of you watching this video who haven't hit the button. We're trying to get to 10,000. If you could hit the button, we'd sincerely appreciate it. Jesse, so Anthony Martineau from TVA Sports reported today that Montreal is open for business when it comes to their goalies, right? Their backlog of 3 NHL-level goalies, but they still haven't made up their mind, but they're apparently listening to every offer, and they are really searching the best offer that they can get. Now, when it comes to their goalies, before we get into some, past goalie trades that have happened that maybe would make us temper our expectations, do you think, just in general, it's worth trading one of these 3 goalies? And if so, what would it take for you to get rid of one of their, 3 NHL-ready guys?
Yeah, well, having 3 goalies is definitely a trend in the NHL, so I see the value. But because we have so many young guys, ready to play, whether it's on our decor or offensively with our forwards, that's why I would like to kind of free up one of those roster spots. So I'm actually happy to hear that this has been kind of heating up more and more. But kind of the question is like, who is this going to be though, right? Because by like a process of elimination, you know that Samuel Montembeault, our young now starter for the club, got a call from Hughes basically saying that, you're free and clear. We want you to be our starter basically going into next year. So you have to feel like he's safe, but like, are they going to try and just get another 1B? Are they going to try and go for kind of a home run 1A? Because he said this to Monty, but things kind of change quickly. And you got to feel like if they are trading goalie, are they going to try and get something back in terms of a goalie? But like, I don't know. I just kind of feel, in my opinion, Josh, and tell me how you feel about this, but like, I don't really feel like it's a Kent Hughes move to like trade for a player and then kind of trade them right away without having too much of a plan or letting their value kind of grow, because Kent Hughes likes to make trade, let their value grow, and then trade them at a higher date. So to take in Casey DeSmith and then to trade him right after kind of seems redundant. So I'm almost leaning towards it being by a process of elimination again to Allen, right? Even though biggest cap hit, longest term out of these 3 goalies, it's like he seems like, probably the most likely in my opinion.
I think you're right. I think he's definitely the most likely one that Montreal is shopping, but I don't necessarily think he's the most likely one who's receiving calls from other teams, because his cap hit is for 2 more years at a much higher cap hit than the other 2 goalies. So while I do agree that I think Kent Hughes is probably looking for options to get rid of Allen, you run with that. Like, if you want to run with 2 goalies, you probably want to run with Monty and DeSmith, at least for this year. Now, they're both UFAs, though. That's another problem. So is having that extra year of security with Jake Allen in years where you're maybe not ready to contend, is that also valuable to Kent Hughes? There's a bunch of different things in here. And like you mentioned, like a 3rd goalie takes up a roster spot. So at what point is the trade-off worth it for sacrificing a roster spot at forward or D, where Montreal have a bunch of prospects who really want to make that breakthrough to the NHL, for a 3rd goalie who's like 30 plus years old, just, trying to stay in the NHL, right? So there's a lot of give and take, but when it comes to what goalies might fetch in trades, that's where this gets a little interesting. So Mac Dumont wrote an article about this tweet that I just showed, and he kind of went through some of the goalie trades in the past year. Now, I'm not going to read all of them. You can pause right now and read them if you like, but the main ones that I wanted to mention, the first thing here, the best return that any goalie has gotten in the past year, or at least in the past season, is when the Buffalo Sabres traded Wright to unsigned NCAA goalie Eric Portillo, who was a very good NCAA goalie, in exchange for a 3rd-round pick in the 2023 draft from the LA Kings. Other than that, you got Mackenzie Blackwood, who used to be a very good starting goalie. He fetched a 6th this year. You got Cal Peterson, who was making $5 million a year, demoted to the AHL, and he was just involved in the Provorov trade. Jonathan Quick passed his prime for Hutchinson in the 7th. Goalies just don't fetch much, Jesse. And that's kind of the problem here. Like, do you think it's really worth it if the Habs were to look and maybe say, okay, hey, we got a good offer for Casey DeSmith. We got a 4th. Is that really worth it for them? Or is that 4th-round pick and freeing up a roster spot maybe better for them for this season at least?
I think that's the bigger picture. Again, freeing up the roster spots
Mm-hmm.
by all means. We have so many great young players. So that's why I feel like if we are possibly kind of shopping one of our goalies, it's going to be in a package with some of our other players, because obviously we still have to free up some room. There's going to be more trades. Stay tuned to the channel. That's for sure, because we got, we got just too many roster spots filled up for right now, right? So you got to feel like it might be part of this, kind of like similar to the trade that we got, but kind of in reverse, right? So many teams kind of find themselves in this similar sort of situation with the cap kind of being stagnant over the last couple of years. So that's how I would kind of see this happening. And, Kent Hughes, if he could maybe do some of his more magic, maybe an Armia Allen type of trade, maybe with some other sort of picks kind of thrown in there. I definitely wouldn't be surprised to see something like this.
Yeah, well, like you said, Jesse, stay tuned to the channel because as soon as the trade breaks, we'll be on top of it. So stick around. We hope to be your source for Habs news. Let's get into the second thing today. That's just, look, how many times have we talked about Lane Hutson? We've done so many videos on Lane Hutson now that even my intro saying, oh, how many times have we talked about Lane Hutson's probably getting old. But hey, if he keeps producing, we're going to keep giving you the stats, right? We're not just going to ignore him. He has the most points by an NCAA defenseman under the age of 19 since the lockout. And I know a lot of you who are watching are probably thinking, well, that's not that long ago, like the lockout, right? That's like 20 years ago. Like in the last 20 years, Lane Hutson has the most points at 48 from an under 19 defenseman, ahead of Adam Fox, who has a Norris Trophy, ahead of Luke Hughes, who looks to be an insane NHL defenseman, Zach Werenski, Justin Falk, these guys who have carved out very, very good careers as top pairing D-men. So, Lane Hutson is just doing insane, and there's also a list of the top draft steals since 2010, and they ranked Montreal's draft steal as Lane Hutson, which, to be fair, I think is kind of a reach considering he hasn't actually played a game yet. I'd maybe go with someone like, maybe someone like Gallagher, maybe even someone like Caufield, who slipped almost to the end of the lottery, right? Or right at the end of the lottery. So, I don't know, Jesse. Lane Hutson's stats are crazy. He's just doing stuff we haven't seen. And at this point, though, it's really nice to see that he's gaining more and more respect as the days go on.
Right. And as this article goes to tweet, I would have my own little correction on there. It says, one of the best defensive prospects in hockey. I would change it to one of the best defensive prospects in history. Ooh. Because don't be slow to jump on the Lane train. Don't let it pass you by. All aboard right now, because we're telling you where this is coming from. Like, this is facts, and every day we just keep bringing and showing it. But like, when you look at that tweet from earlier, right, you see all of his competitors, are all kind of bunched in, and then Lane Hutson 8 points above his nearest competitor in Adam Fox. And I honestly feel like that's going to be such a good comparable for Lane Hutson throughout his career. You're going to hear their names. We're starting to see it already quite a bit, but even more so and more so, we're going to be talking about this. But I don't feel like he's Adam Fox. He's Adam Fox 2.0. It's like, we know, it's like, that's how these things work. Sports, we take on what's been done and we build upon that, and it just gets better and better. It's only natural, right? It's only the flow of things kind of over time. So I feel like Lane, he's definitely learning from the best, and obviously he's putting it into practice. I'm just blown away to see these numbers once again.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing, really. And, some hot takes there, but hey, you know what? I'm jumping on the Lane train. I've been on the Lane train since day one. Maybe not all you were on the Lane train yet. And, we hope that we prove you non-believers wrong by some point when Lane Hutson finally debuts in the NHL, because what he's doing is insane. Sometimes I just sit visualizing what he's going to do at the NHL level, right? Making people look foolish like Cale Makar does. Can't wait to see it, because he's doing stuff that, he doesn't even really have a comparable. Final thing today, just a quick little note. Sean Monahan says he's 100% healthy. Now, this is kind of out of nowhere. There was just he got a little tweet from Alex Russo, said he got to his game tonight and he saw Sean Monahan just casually ripping around. He got to talk to him for a few minutes, said he's feeling 100% healthy. Even for Montreal, I hope he has a monster year. Probably my favorite player of the past decade, one of the nicer guys, and by all accounts, Monahan's an amazing guy. But Jesse, Sean Monahan gives such like a bit of versatility to Montreal, and he allows them to open up their different line combinations because of his ability to play center, his ability to play wing, his ability to play power play, his ability to do basically anything you could want him to do on the ice. So to hear he's 100% healthy, like we've heard from a bunch of other Habs this offseason, Guhle, Slafkovsky, Cole Caufield, these guys are all ready to go, and I don't know, it just feels like things are building up for a nice, healthy, knock on wood, season.
Exactly. No, it's all shaping up. And I think those are some great points on Sean Monahan that you mentioned, and being so great on the dot and that veteran presence, within a kind of top six that we need. So he's actually a really great fit, especially in just being like such a nice guy, as well as mentioned, taking time to speak with people and just kind of have a convo and everything else. But as we know in his past time as a hockey player, especially with the Calgary Flames before he came to Montreal, like he's just an electric player. He's a very smart, dynamic player. And when he's healthy, you know that he's going to be good. And that's really the only thing that really matters. So as long as he's healthy, you're getting an amazing player. So honestly, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do. He obviously hasn't written himself off for his career. I don't think we should either. I think he's still got a lot of good hockey into him. And I just want to see him healthy. And if you know he is, he's going to be producing this year.
Yeah, for sure. And he's motivated too. You got to think, right? He's had so many injuries throughout his career, and he is ready to keep proving people wrong. Like, I mean, he did it last year when he was healthy, then he got hurt again. But a healthy Monahan is such a great player. He's still not that old, right? He's still fairly young. So to be able to see him 100% this year, I just hope we can get at least 60, 65 games out of him, because that would be so good for us as fans. It'd be so good for the team. But, I mean, maybe most important of all, it'd feel really, really good for Sean Monahan himself. That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10K, right? I mean, 8K, 9K are cool, but we're on the road to 10K. So let's try and hit that as soon as we can. Your support's been amazing, and we thank you very, very much. I'm Josh Goss for my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.